Just a little intro on myself. So my name is Kris Rudeegraap. I am the CEO and co-founder of Sendoso. We're a direct mail and gifting platform. And today I wanted to talk about the topic, actually really relevant to some of the last panel discussions around what's next for SDRs. So the topics around SDRs that are crushing their quota and what's next for them. So in terms of today, what I'm going to cover, I'm going to just give a brief introduction on myself, talk a little bit more about the Sendoso team so you can just kind of understand our sales landscape. It sets the stage for a bit more in terms of what we saw happening. Talk a bit about the solution that we came up with, and then open it up for some Q&A at the end if we have time. So myself, I was in sales as an AE for 10 years before turning from an AE to a CEO. Kind of a unique track record. I was an AE at Yapstone for a few years, selling financial services software. I was at a social media management company called Quota, selling software. Moved over to TalkDesk, where I was selling software to the call center industry. And then from there, I started Sendoso. So I think I have a unique experience being a sales rep, but also doing a lot of SDRing while being an AE. And all that has really helped me grow the Sendoso team and company. As we got started, I was our first SDR manager. So I manage our SDR team of 6. We actually just hired a couple days ago a new SDR manager, so that relieves me of some of my work, which is nice. But for the last 2 years, I was overseeing the SDR team. Just a bit of a landscape in terms of the sales team, which kind of will set the stage for the future slides. So we sell a SaaS software to B2B companies. We try to target companies with 50 or more employees. Our typical average contract value is around $24,000, and we're targeting buyers that might be VP of Sales, VP of Customer Success, or even VP of Marketing. And we have 2 offices. We have our main office here in San Francisco, and then we have a new sales office in Scottsdale, Arizona, where we're expanding our inside sales team. And again, like most software companies, we have a very typical inbound demand gen model mixed with an outbound SDR model that the SDRs are handing off to AEs to demo and close. And then in terms of our mix of AEs and SDRs, we have 8 AEs, 6 SDRs, and then we have 4 ex-SDRs. And I'll go into what I mean by that. So really what we saw happening was our SDRs were crushing it. They were setting meetings. We raised their quota. They kept hitting their meeting quota. It was awesome. They qualified for promotions to AEs, but the problem is we didn't have room on the AE team quite yet for these SDRs that were doing really well. And what we really didn't want to see is these SDRs to leave and go somewhere else. We developed them. They knew the industry. They knew the team. They were great with culture fits. So we had to really open up some new career track options for these SDRs and really hone in on what their skill sets were and how we could leverage that for other areas of our business. So what we came up with was 5 different career paths for these SDRs. So the first one is a partner representative. The second one is an engagement specialist. The third one is a customer strategist. The next one is a creative project manager. And then the last one is pretty obvious. It's the account executive role. That's pretty typical with most SDR to AE organizations. So jumping into these a little bit more, just to kind of highlight what each of these new roles are and some of the results we've seen. So the first one is a partner representative. So for our company, we actually have a lot of partnerships. We partner with companies like SalesLoft and Outreach and Salesforce and Marketo and a dozen others. We also have partnerships with agencies as well as printing and swag vendors. So our partner landscape's pretty big. And so what we want to do is really double down. And we didn't want to go the route of top-down approach where a VP is talking to a VP, you do a one-time co-marketing and kind of call it a success. We really wanted to do a more bottoms-up approach. And so what we did is we promoted one of our top SDRs into this new partner rep role. And so the goal here was for her to engage and foster these relationships very one-on-one. So this means specifically reaching out to the AEs, the SDRs, the CSMs, the account managers, all the different people at our partners. and building more relationships, doing more one-on-one meetings, doing more happy hours, and really being someone that they can ask questions to and feel like they can relate with, more than just the VP to VP kind of partnership angle that I've seen in the past. After we rolled this out, we actually saw 4 times the number of customer referrals from these partners. So it's been a huge success, and down the line we see that this role will continue to grow and will continue to help our future SDRs into this career path if we see that of a good fit. The next one is an engagement specialist. So what we saw here was that marketing was doing a lot to drive up content activity, doing a lot of conferences where we saw a lot of booth follow-ups or post-conference follow-ups. We implemented Drift and was seeing a ton of Drift chats. And then we're getting a lot of social media mentions and social media outreach, both to ourselves and then to our customers' customers. And so we saw that our existing SDRs were really focused on their target account list. They had these named accounts they were going after, and some of these content downloads or conference follow-ups were kind of falling by the wayside. And we invested in those channels, we invested in content, we invested in conferences, but the SDRs were just too focused on their main content or their main target lists. So what we decided to do is we decided to promote Darren from an SDR to an engagement specialist. And his role was really to engage with these folks that were downloading content, sending e-gifts to drive more meaningful relationships, sending swag to people that attended conferences after the conference, really owning Drift and being that go-to person for live chats. And then we even started logging social media engagements in Salesforce so we could follow up more proactively with that. Some people might think of this as like an inbound role. You know, an inbound rep might be more junior, someone that's taking these content downloads. But we wanted someone that was actually more senior who could really talk the talk and really be much more focused on driving meaningful relationships. So that's why we opened up this new role for more of a senior track. And as a result, this individual actually has no named accounts in his name, but is hitting the quota that the other SDRs are going after their outbound. And I feel that if we didn't do this, a lot of these would just be kind of low-hanging fruit that are engaging with content. Someone hits them up once and then it falls by the wayside. So we're much more active in driving opportunities from these. The next is a customer strategist. So this is really a land and expand opportunity for us. In our business, we're unique in some senses because we sell into a lot of different teams. We have marketing, sales teams, SDR teams, HR teams, recruiting teams, a lot of different buyers and ICPs. And so what we really saw is that our existing AEs were really just going after new logos. At the same time, our CSMs were really focused on keeping customers happy. And so no one was really going after our existing customer list. So what we did is we promoted one of our SDRs. This is actually really recent this month, who's reaching out to other departments at existing accounts, setting up demos and pushing those back to the original AE who worked that account originally, and even more importantly, building outreach into these other departments, building new cadences, and cleaning up the Salesforce data so that we can track it a lot better. And again, in some other organizations, this might be an account manager role, but what we saw is that we wanted to take the skill set of one of our top SDRs, use that which was really creating good outbound email, looking at the data that we have, and best of all, this person was really good at using Sendoso itself, so eating our own dog food, using that to go out and expanding our account opportunities. And we've already seen opportunities being generated from that, and we're expanding our accounts because of that. The next one is a creative project manager. This is a little bit more unique to our business. So for us, we actually like to proactively suggest direct mail ideas, gifting campaigns, other types of initiatives that our customers can use, in addition to what a customer success manager might help with. So we provide actually 2 points of contact for our accounts, a creative project manager and a CSM. And so we see that as a career path for an SDR that doesn't want to get into selling and closing deals. We can push them down this creative project manager where we already have 2 of those at our company right now that are focused on that. But as these SDRs continue to grow, maybe not wanting to move into sales, we can actually push them into this career track and they can move into the creative project manager role and really help our existing customers out. And we haven't done this yet. We haven't promoted anyone to this track. We've only hired for this role outside of the company, but we see that this will be a future success, hopefully, for our SDRs that want a different track. The last one, this is the obvious one, account executive. We've already promoted a couple SDRs to AEs. This is nothing new, and this will continue to happen forever. So just kind of summarizing what we've learned from this, it was actually covered pretty well from Ashley in the last panel, that SDRs are really early in their career. And a lot of times they don't know exactly what they want to do. They get into the role, they could be coming straight out of college, they could have been a bartender, convinced to go into the sales world. You never know where their background was, but not all of them are either wanting to be AEs or are good fits to be AEs for that matter. And so what we saw is that really we wanted to keep these people that had a lot of good industry know-how. There is a lot of good talent that we wanted to keep at the company, but we wanted to make sure that we didn't lose them for another career track outside of Sendoso. And I think the third part, this is the most important thing, and this is, I think, relevant to everybody, is as an executive team, what we really did is we looked at what are the key areas in our company that we want to focus on as we grow, and how can we leverage SDR's skill sets. They're really good at researching and finding data. They're really good at building relationships and setting up meetings. They're really good at keeping Salesforce data clean, a variety of other things that they're good at, outbounding and picking up the phone, dialing, talking to these prospects. And so that's really where we found with our business that the partnerships team can really benefit from SDRs and kind of their skill set. We really saw that the team that was basically the marketing team that was leaving some of this content downloads, some of this conference stuff, where we could throw in an SDR that was more senior to engage with these people early on in their life cycle and early on in the way that they engage with Sendoso to put more effort into turning those into opportunities was really important for us. And then landing and expanding. A lot of companies talk about that. We wanted to double down there, and for us, it was a really important thing for us to do. So yeah, I know there's about 5 minutes left or so. I wanted to open it up to questions and see if anyone else had any questions on either what we do or how we went about this.
One question is, about the career path.
Yeah.
Why, so those were really creative, cool and additional path options. Why don't you create a sales role for people who don't have SDR support, and sort of an in-between SDR and AE role, if you didn't have an AE team?
What would those people do?
They'd be full cycle salespeople.
Yeah, I mean, for those people, though, we've really found that these SDRs we either didn't want to put people into the AE track because we didn't have room on the AE team for them. I mean, it's a potential option, but we also found that some of the people didn't want to be AEs. And so kind of that in-between role would have not made them happy. So it was kind of a mix on how to keep this SDR happy, who wasn't excited to be an AE, or if we didn't have enough room, how do we position that to keep them excited in another track. So it's a kind of part of us, part of them.
I think you called it the customer strategist role.
Yeah.
How do you pay them?
Yeah, so that person is actually paid on two things. So one, they're setting meetings with our existing accounts to other departments. So similar to the SDR's normal payment quota based on the number of meetings they're setting. So we set that. We also have some additional spiffs based on organic licenses that are actually added too. So it's kind of a secondary spiff if there's not another sales cycle that needs to happen and it's a smaller company, maybe an SMB company, sub 100 employees, where the other department isn't big enough to have a whole new sales cycle, then we spiff them on new licenses added that way. So these are actually the new managers. So the engagement specialist reports into marketing. The partnerships person reports into our partnerships team and our VP of Biz Dev. And then the customer strategist and the creative project manager report into our customer success org. Yep.
Try to get away with two if I can.
Yeah, so that's actually been a lot of, there's been a lot of back and forth there where this person is actually does a great job of doing their homework to see if there was any engagement within the last 30 days to see, and almost all the time they're actually pushing that back to the SDR, the AE, so they're very unselfish in terms of how they react to these engagements. A lot of times they'll engage with them if there's no activity, if it's just a marketing, sitting in the marketing bucket. So they sit right next to the SDRs, even though they're on the marketing side, and are engaging a lot with the prospects, and doing a lot of Salesforce homework before they do any of this.
And then what are some of the future ideas you have about future ex-SDRs?
Geez, I mean, this is a lot for us to come up with just these 5. I think this is more than enough for us. Maybe get back to me in a couple of years, but I think this is enough for us to at least get started, and at least for our SDRs as we're interviewing them and bringing them on board, showing this in the beginning. And in the years to come, we'll see how this pans out, if we've already seen some good success with it. Mm-hmm. Over there.
What are the expectations of how long they'll be in the SDR role when you're hiring them?
Yeah, so good question. So the expectations kind of differ on when we bring them into the company, whether they're just fresh out of college or fresh out of a new role that's not an SDR role. Then we've kind of set some different expectations on how long they should be in that role or what meeting quotas they should hit before they're promoted. If we're hiring them through we've pulled them from another company and they've already been doing SDRing for a while, and we've kind of either sold them the dream that there's other options, or they've just come to our organization because they love what we're doing, then we set them on a slightly different career path in terms of the number of quarters that they have to hit the specific meeting quota. So it's slightly different based on their entry point. Cool.
If you're showing them these options at the beginning and
Mm-hmm.
when you're onboarding them, are they sort of sticking their hand up and saying, oh, I think this one would be interesting for me? And then if so, how does that actually affect their performance as an SDR?
Yeah, so we do one-on-ones, or I did one-on-ones with these SDRs, and on a monthly basis, we kind of talk to their career track. I found that it gives them something more to strive for, because they know if they hit their goals, there's something on the other side of the road, that the tunnel's looking bright for them. Especially if in their back of their mind they're like, hey, I don't want to be an AE, or in our mind there's no promotion for them to be an AE anytime soon because we're not filling that SMB AE role at that time. So this gives them, I think, another opportunity to double down their work ethic so that they can make sure they're hitting their numbers, so they can make sure that they can get a career jump in terms of this new role. So, any other questions? Perfect. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time.